Close your eyes. Think back to your first job interview. Think back to the first callback. Think back to the first discussion about salary. How did you feel? Did you feel well prepared and well informed? Most people don't. Definitely not in their first salary negotiation, if there even was such a thing. In fact, most people do not negotiate their salary at all. A study shows that on average, only 39% of people negotiate their starting salary. And this includes the gender difference, with 46% of men negotiating the salary, but only 34% of women. But why is that the case? If it is your first job, likely you just don't really know the salary range that is appropriate for the job. For big companies, a lot of salary insights are published on websites like Glassdoor, so you can get a bit of a better idea. But if you start off in a mid-sized or even small company, it is oftentimes difficult to know what to expect. Also, at least in Germany, many companies ask you to give you their salary expectation directly as you apply, taking away the opportunity to ask the HR managers what the budget for the role is. And many people simply feel uncomfortable discussing anything that is related to money. So overcoming this inner obstacle to bring up the issue of the salary is quite large, especially if you are in a situation that already makes you nervous, like a job interview. Plus, if no one around you talks about money, it is even more difficult to gauge where you're supposed to be at. Getting insight from peers and coworkers can be really helpful, and I've always been glad to work at companies where either the company itself promotes an open policy or the coworkers simply choose to share that information. Another reason why starting salary negotiations is so difficult is because you really might need that job. Asking for more might seem like a big risk to take, because you do not know what their budget is or if they have other equally qualified candidates who would be happy to work for that money. This puts you in a tough spot, and rather than losing out on the job completely by asking to negotiate the salary, many people just take the job instead without even trying to negotiate. But what if a lot of those hurdles to getting the salary you deserve could be overcome by simply making a new rule? The rule that all salaries shall be made public. Welcome to Rebel Economics and today's episode where we look at the ramifications of all salaries being publicly visible. Would this really help employees get the higher salary they deserve? And who might lose out on an increase in wage? If you enjoy our videos, please like and subscribe. The new transparency of salaries would definitely be very interesting. It really doesn't matter what stage of your professional life you are in, but knowing the salary of your peers, coworkers, and competitors would surely be interesting. And that is largely because we see salary as more than just a purely economic transaction. The wage you receive is also a quantifiable measure of how much the company values you. You don't believe me? Try out this scenario. You have a good job and are quite happy at your company. The coworkers are nice and the boss is nice enough. You're happy with what you're earning and are overall content with your situation. You and a coworker start at roughly the same time. You have similar workload and both do your jobs reasonably well. As far as you can tell, there's not much distinguishing your performances. And now, all of a sudden, this new rule of salary transparency is implemented. So, of course you check how much this peer is making. And somehow he makes $5,000 more than you per year. Would you still be happy and content? My guess is no. You would think that you're being taken for granted or that the company is taking advantage of you because they feel like they get to pay you less. So naturally, you, along with everyone else who sees that coworkers whom they presume equals are actually earning more, would go to their boss demanding a raise or at the very least an explanation. Depending on the reason for the difference in wage, this may have many different outcomes. For one, if there really is a distinction, it may actually offer you an important insight about what type of behavior or specific performances the company is looking for, and it would allow you to adjust your behavior accordingly. Or if they put a certain importance on a degree, for example. If you see that having a master's degree rather than a bachelor's degree is important within this company, and you want to make your career there, then maybe it is worth looking into studying while working. Because if it early on allows for significant wage difference, then it will also likely be valued when it comes to promotions. This way, you at least have the information at hand and can make an informed decision. And if there is no good explanation for why someone else is earning more, well, then you have gained a whole lot of bargaining power because you already know how much the position you're filling is worth to the company. Having good arguments is always important, and having good information at hand is key. So knowing the salaries in your company and others like it might make the salaries more competitive and give employees a leg up when it comes to negotiating the wage. Having to justify a difference in wage could definitely benefit some people more than others. This is especially the case when we look at the difference in salary between men and women. Now, I don't want to open that whole can of worms, neither from a liberal nor a conservative perspective, so what I will do is just to stick to statistics. As we have seen in the beginning, women are 12% less likely to negotiate the salary. This means that they are more likely to start off on a lower salary than men, and this continues throughout their career. While men might regularly ask for a raise or inquire about opportunities for a promotion, women tend to go a different route, believing that if they deserve it, they will get it, without having to ask. In an environment that is still largely dominated by men, this behavior will likely not get you noticed. A study shows that while women represent 54.3% of the US workforce as of December 2021, only 35% of senior leadership positions were held by women. This accumulates over the years, so yes, women will likely be earning less in comparison to their male counterparts. With all salaries being public, this might give them the push they need to ask for that raise, decreasing some of that wage inequality. With more transparency, more justifications for any given wage would be required. But so far we have largely looked at the short-term effects of this new rule. So let's also have a look at some of the potential long-term effects of publicly available salary information. Companies might actually end up being more strict when it comes to negotiating salary. They know that everyone can see what you're making, so unless they have a very specific reason for this, they know their other employees will notice and ask for an explanation or a raise. So salaries would probably converge, leaving less wiggle room for individual negotiations. In the end, the wages in the private sector might resemble the public sector model more closely. In the public sector, there are tables that detail how much salary you can get depending on your educational level, experience, and years spent in the position. That way, there is no or very little bargaining power. Everyone gets put in a box, and everyone in the same box gets the same salary. With companies being more wary of increasing the wage of a particular worker and overall convergence, this may have some negative side effects. People who work very productively might have a harder time convincing their boss that they deserve a raise, even if their output is quantifiably better. And many positive aspects cannot be quantified, so if you want to reward an employee for his or her out-of-the-box thinking and savviness at problem-solving, you might find yourself wondering how something more intangible can be justified to your other employees. So, while people being able to demand what they deserve is clearly an upside, no longer being able to show appreciation for outstanding effort might decrease employees' motivation and reduce their performance. After having looked at both sides of the argument, you may ask where I stand at the end of this. Well, overall, I still think that most people would benefit from salary information being publicly available. I believe in meritocracy, and therefore I think that there should be a good explanation why someone receives more or less than their coworkers, and I think we all should be able to have that information and to then ask for explanations. But as typically is the case in these what-if episodes, I don't think that this will become a standard practice anytime soon. However, there is some hope, at least for us Europeans. The EU Commission is actually working on making it mandatory to provide a salary range when posting job ads. This way, when finding a new job, you get a better idea of what the starting point may be, and you know your position on this range, especially for those who are new to the job market or those who are changing their area will find this very helpful to know. Of course, this is only of use if the ranges aren't very large. Being told you could earn anything from 40 to 90,000 euros won't help much. But if it is done properly, it will give many people an edge for negotiating salary. With more information at hand, they may feel more comfortable to breach the subject in the first place. Thank you for watching Rebel Economics. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, so if you did, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. It's full of fun content and we're working really hard on making even more. And if you want to watch more right now, then check out our video on the many benefits of showing your employees some appreciation. Or why not see why Prime really is the best deal you can get? See you next time here in Rebel Economics.